Well, welcome to the No Love Podcast, where we decrease tomorrow's divorce rate today by teaching singles and couples alike how to experience love on purpose and not by chance. I am your host, Edward L. Fairley, accompanied by my lovely and wonderful co-host, Michelle Larkin. Michelle, say hi to the people.
Woo! Welcome to No Love This Week.
We have been gone for a couple of weeks. Michelle and I had some things that we had to take care of in our personal lives. So of course, with us, it's God, family, business. So we take care of those things accordingly. But we definitely make sure to come back to pour into you all as well. With that being said, what do you have going on, Miss Michelle? Any updates you want to share, or stuff that you're working on, or life-changing events?
Actually, what are life-changing events, but parts of the journey that just kind of refresh and reset. I guess the most exciting thing is that Queen's Moves, as a retreat and as a workshop, is maturing. I've gotten asked to do a new one, so I'm excited about being able to help people in transition. It's an awesome experience. It's kind of like a birthing experience. It's kind of getting free from the fear, making a decision. Because, part of being uncertain causes anxiety. When you don't make a decision, you just kind of free floating. It's very stressful. So I'm excited to take Queen's Moves on the road and help people in transition make some decisions and make their next best move.
That's awesome. And again, I don't know if I said that on the last show, but I saw behind the scenes videos on the Queen's Move, and it's great content, very enlightening, and stuff that people typically actually don't think about. And, the concept of no love is to experience love on purpose. And in your case, it's basically being professional on purpose and presenting yourselves in a manner that will assist in expediting the process of you growing through the ranks when it comes to corporate America or just being an entrepreneur. So great content. I definitely endorse.
You can get a sample on my Yumi Connections YouTube page. There's a sample of Queen's Moves.
Awesome. So you want to spell that for them, please?
Yumi Connections is UMI Connections with an S. And you can go to Yumi-connections.com, or you can literally put in UMI space connections on YouTube, and it should come right up.
Perfect. Anything else you want to share before we get started in this topic?
We missed you. We've been away. We missed you. We've been having fun. I missed Eddie, definitely. Look at his little smiling face. I missed Eddie, and I got my No Love shirt on because I missed the crew, so we're ready to go.
I actually, I share the same sentiments. This is my first time seeing Michelle for 2+ weeks.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
And we've been just that busy that we've been missing each other. So I was just texting her. She was like, "Are we on today?" I said, "Please be on today." I miss you. I miss the show, and I miss our listeners. So we definitely miss you all, and we're glad to be back. Hopefully we're not gone for 2 weeks for the following couple of weeks, but that's why we've started to end the show with when we meet again, as opposed to see you next week, so that we can make sure that we are being people of our word. As far as what's going on with No Love, guess what? The Android version of the app is now available for free and the Google Play Store. So that is exciting. Finally, we have one half of the app being available. The first launch of it, of course, it evolves into something bigger, but the actual simulation where you can engage in the simulator, which is pretty much an app version of the board simulation, to allow for you to have, basically, you don't know what you don't know. So engaging in the simulation, it allows for you to be exposed to things that you probably didn't consider, have experiences that you probably have been going through but didn't look at it the way that you might see it upon the experience, it will get you frustrated, and it's created that way because relationships will get you frustrated if you're approaching them in a manner that is not healthy, which we're going to discuss that a lot today too. So you definitely want to be intentional about being successful within your respective relationships or even dating. But the No Love app, you just simply type in KNOWLOVE. It will pull the app up, and it will allow for you to download it from the Google Play Store. Those who are iPhone and Apple persons, though, that will be there soon. But for right now, it is available for free for those who have an Android device. So simply go to Google Play Store and put in No Love, and it will pull it up. We're also working on some new merchandise logos. So I will more than likely be putting that up on Facebook for those who follow me there. And if you're not someone that follows me there and you would like to be a part of these conversations live when we do them, it's typically on Thursdays and at 7:30 when we do have it. And my Facebook is Edward L. No, actually spells my middle name out, LeVar, Levar, Fairley. If you don't know what I look like to what you're concerned, you can look at me and Michelle at the No Love Podcast YouTube channel, so you can see who it is that you are actually sending a friendship request to. So again, that is Edward.
Photo shoot together. We need to do a photo shoot together. Definitely.
Edward LeVar. That's Levar. Fairley. That's F as in Frank. Airley. Again, the No Love app is available, and if you would like to participate in these conversations, we typically do it on Thursday nights at 7:30 on my Edward L. Fairley Facebook page, so that people can engage and be a part of the discussion live. Is there anything else? Am I missing anything that you know of?
Yes, you are. Because you have been posting, if you follow Edward on Instagram, on Facebook, Twitter, he's been posting screenshots of the game. So you can get a little sample and you can see what it's like. So you can go ahead and look before you get the app, but it is challenging. It's cool. I'm so proud. I remember when it was an idea.
Yeah. I have been sending different screenshots of what I've been experiencing throughout my little app experiences. My wife done cheated on me. I've had a whole bunch of stuff happen to me upon my experiences, from divorces and avoiding abusive relationships. It is a pretty in-your-face type of situation. It's pretty much, remember the game of life? It's that on steroids. So it's real. It's in your face. It makes you think. I did one landing space, and it said, you're interested in someone who you found someone that you're interested in, but you're not someone that they are interested in. So like oftentimes we don't think about the fact that when we're dating, we are looking for someone, or we're looking to choose someone, but we also have to be chosen. So sometimes we get so excited that we found who we're looking for, but we might not qualify for who they're looking for. So again, in your face, that real type of information or experiences, so that you can learn from them here, so that you can prevent yourself from having to learn from them in real life. That is the No Love Simulator / app. Let's get into this topic. Michelle, I don't think she knows what the topic is, so I'm going to go ahead and read that to her.
No idea.
The topic is escaping to your enslavement. Escaping to your enslavement. Now, what in the world does that mean? So, in a nutshell, of course, we're going to go in depth into this particular topic, but a lot of people, they typically create defense mechanisms to avoid pain, or they run to dangerous pleasures to avoid pain. And again, I'm going to be giving a lot of examples of what that looks like so that you can identify if you are the one that is doing this and potentially putting yourself in an even worse situation or circumstance, or preventing yourself from ever even experiencing what you would prefer or want to experience in life. So I'm going to start with, what will I start with?
I don't know.
Okay.
Let's find out.
You said what? You don't know, you would find out?
No, I'm curious.
Okay, so I'll give a good example. Let's start with escaping loneliness to be enslaved by phoniness. Escaping loneliness to be enslaved by phoniness. And what I mean by that statement is a lot of people, when they're dating, because they don't really love themselves or think that they're who they truly are, would be loved by someone else to where they would be chosen, they act a certain way to try to win someone over. But after they get that person, they're enslaved by the fictitious person that they presented, which leaves them frustrated because now they have to act a certain way that they prefer not to be. So they're craving who they really are, or craving to be who they really are, but they can't be that way because they acted a certain way to win them over. So you escaped the loneliness. You acted that way so you could win someone over. So you escaped that. You hated being alone, so you acted a certain way to win someone over, but you escaped loneliness only to be enslaved by having company or someone around you, but you're not happy with who you are. You understand what I'm saying, Michelle? So that is an example.
I do. What resonated with me was being trapped by your reaction.
Being what?
Being trapped by your reactions that become habits.
Oh yeah, most certainly. You mind elaborating on that statement?
So when I hear you say escaping from loneliness only to be enslaved by phoniness, what I heard was I am reacting to a painful experience, and my reaction, which is a defense mechanism, becomes a habit. So I end up building a wall. So I am trapped by my own habit. My habit becomes to create a barrier.
Most certainly. Yeah, and like you're so focused on not being lonely that you don't realize that you're putting yourself in a predicament that is going to leave you miserable.
Guilty. Guilty?
Even with your mate or the company in which you have. So these are the type of examples that I'm going to be going into, and it's even deeper than what we're even going to be talking about on the surface. So we'll get there towards the end, but that is the first one that I wanted to go into, like this whole concept of escaping. And we have this idea that we are escaping to something that would probably bring us pleasure, not realizing the consequence that may come with the way that we've escaped. Another example is you finally got out of that terrible relationship. And typically when people are in terrible relationships, it is like really one major thing that like you could not stand about that person. So you finally have severed that relationship. Now you're quote unquote free. So in that sense, you escaped. And then you start dating again. So you are so focused on the other person having to have that one thing that you despise that they did not have or that they did have, that you escape to this blissful, wonderful relationship that you created in your mind because they had that one thing, disregarding all of the other things that you need in order for you to be happy. And instead of you going into a relationship with someone that has everything that you have, or that one that has that one thing that the other person lacked, now you've gone into a relationship with the person that only has that one thing that you lack, and they're missing every single thing that you wish you had because you got so excited that you have found what you lacked in the previous relationship, that you just disregard what I teach as your non-negotiable list or your grocery list because you got so excited that they have that one thing. So you escaped being with that person that lacked that one thing and felt like you had found the right person because you got so excited that they had it, only to be enslaved by someone that is lacking every single other thing that is necessary in order for you to sustain your happiness with that person. I see you smiling, Michelle. What you thinking?
I'm thinking that you replace a rejection with an obsession. It's very easy to do because you're overcompensating, right? So like you said, you find this replacing a rejection with an obsession, which can be misdiagnosed or miscalculated or misperceived to be love. An obsession can be confused as love because it has similar attributes, but it wears off. It's easy to be obsessed with someone's looks or their kindness or, you know, that they're there for you, but they're also kind of, you're not good with money, but they're there for you. So you think it's fabulous and you're obsessed with this fact that they're there for you. And then you realize, you know, I'm in love with this person who never has any money. And they always, Erykah Badu and me, trying to get me to pay for this stuff. And you're like, how long? God, how long? How long? How long? And then, you know, you praying, but you replace the rejection with an obsession, not a love interest. You just kind of were trying to fill this void that the pain was caused by this other aspect, and you just filled it with something to make the pain go away, but you didn't really look at it, which is what you're saying is it's, you know, escaping is not dealing.
Yeah, that's good, and that's so true. And we're gonna get more into that in a moment. But yeah, escaping is definitely not dealing at all. Oh man, that's so true, and we're definitely headed there when we go through these different examples of what people or people escaping to their enslavement.
Can I just add one thing though?
Of course, that's what you're here. You're here to add. What are we doing right now?
Amplify. I'm here to amplify. But but loneliness. I'm going back to your loneliness because loneliness is a driver. It is an ache, right? So you're saying like escape loneliness only to be enslaved by phoniness, but loneliness, haven't experienced it, right? And loneliness you're only lonely when you don't like yourself. To exactly be perfectly honest, exactly. You're only lonely when you don't like being by yourself, or you don't like yourself because you're looking outside of yourself for somebody else to satisfy that, and that makes you lonely when that other person doesn't show up. So that loneliness is an ache, and it's a driver. It makes you do stuff that, like, it's like being without sleep for like a long time. Mm-hmm. And you just can't get it together because you just are constantly on this lonely tip. And that phoniness piece, having again been through, I did not link the phoniness to the loneliness until we had some significant conversations, and we all know that Eddie likes to call you out on your stuff. But anyways, so I didn't know, I didn't link the two. And I think that the whole exercise of deconstructing it, which is what, you know, the book is about, is going backwards and trying to find the root of it. But that ache and that phoniness gives you the same ache. You know, like you're escaping from one thing and you're going to another, but if it get you both, either time you end up with the same ache, have you really escaped? Or have you just replaced one pain with another pain? Yeah,
most certainly. And that's why we have the foundation of the no love triangle, which is self-interest and self-love. So that's why these different phases of the triangle are so imperative, because in order for you to avoid being in these predicaments, you have to first self-love, and then of course love the other person, which is through your selflessness, and then lastly self-evolution, which we'll cover that later. But yes, that is exactly right. As far as getting to a place where that is not an issue, the loneliness issue is a self-hatred issue, And in order for you to get past the loneliness, you have to first date and fall in love with yourself so that you won't be in a place of loneliness, to where you don't have to be phony because you're so fine with yourself that in order for someone to add themselves to you, they have to be fine with you. And that would make for a wonderful foundation of a great relationship. So that's exactly right. Let's go to the next one. Now we're kind of in a relationship phase. I see this a lot. Escaping uncomfortable conversation to be enslaved by your negative imagination.
The conspiracy theory.
So escaping uncomfortable conversation to be enslaved by your negative imagination. People do this all the time. They have, as she stated, these conspiracy theories about a person that, interestingly enough, you've chosen out of the conclusion that they love you. So it's so strange how we start with the most negative thing that the person could possibly be intentionally doing to us when we concluded or chose a person that supposedly loved us or loves us. So people, and that's why I try to kind of give people that the approach that is more comfortable with just sharing how it is that you came to the conclusion that you came to based off of what they did or didn't do or said or didn't say, and asking them if that is what they meant or if they meant for you to receive it the way that you received it. So just simply asking, well, this is the way I took this. Is this the way that you meant for me to take it? Which gives them an opportunity to share how much they really love you or share how much they don't and help you to make a quicker decision. Yeah, I know it's tough. See what I mean? Escaping uncomfortable conversation. And that's exactly why, if you saw your face, your response, we typically try to avoid finding out what that uncomfortable truth may be. But why stay in a relationship with someone that may very well be intentionally harming you or disliking you when you could possibly—
For fear of loneliness, sir. For the fear of loneliness.
There you go. Back to the fear of loneliness. So not loving yourself. So clearly this is a domino effect if we don't start with the foundational stuff. But go ahead and share. Go ahead, Michelle.
I wanted you to, I would like to ask for you to go back and talk about what you mean by enslavement, because that is a very powerful word. And it's emotionally, it's touching. So it's not even just escaping, to phoniness or escaping to bad habits or obsession or whatever. It's being enslaved by it. So can you give us a little bit more about why you chose the word enslaved?
Most certainly, and that's a great question, and definitely I intentionally use two contrasts, because when you escape, you typically think liberation, freedom, but if you're enslaved, you think bondage, stuck. And that's why you're so easily caught into this trap, because it seems liberating to go about it the way that you're doing it, which in turn is putting you in this invisible bondage that you don't even realize that you're in. And one of the most powerful things that I heard someone say is that habit is like I think it's something, hold on, because I don't want to say it incorrectly, but it's so profound and it's so real. It says the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be moved. And I'm gonna say that again, because that is such a real and profound statement. It says the chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be moved. And you kind of alluded to that earlier when you stated that you're creating a habit when you are going into this whole phoniness pattern and trying to actually win these people over because you don't really like yourself. And it becomes a habit and a routine and a cycle. And you don't even realize that you are enslaved by it, to where it's even difficult to shift your thought process when it comes to it. So I use that word enslavement because I know it is a very, very powerful word, so that people can really think about you going the route in which you're going by doing this thing that you think is liberating or even protecting you through this defense mechanism that you're creating is actually building a wall that is preventing you from being free from which you're actually trying to be liberated from.
And you don't really know that the wall has been created until you see or get close to or finally understand the potential or what you really want is right in the palm of your hand, and you can't get to it because of this wall. And from my own experience, it was knowing that I have the capability to love the way I want to be loved, but then realizing that the wall had been built up so high though that I didn't feel worthy of it, right? So, but I didn't even know that it was that I didn't feel worthy until I wanted it and had it. It was sitting right there, and I couldn't connect to it, right? Like I couldn't have the uncomfortable conversation, or I couldn't accept the fact that I was no longer lonely, you know, because I had built up these habits that said you're lonely, you're lonely, you're lonely. But there was a part of me that was like, but I like the where I am right now. Why do I think I'm lonely when so you just, when the habit or the enslavement becomes what you think is truth, that's when you have a problem.
And all right, so what you just said is extremely powerful. We know Harriet Tubman, one of her famous quotes is she freed thousands of slaves, and she would have freed more had they known that they were slaves. So this is the whole reason for this particular conversation, so that a lot of people who are enslaved can hopefully realize that they're putting themselves in slavery, and it's really a mental thing. Slavery has always been a mental thing, even though it was physical, like the physical nature of the abuse or the examples that they use for those who are the biggest and strongest slaves to intimidate others. It had to be received or accepted as, okay, that could happen to me in order for you to be enslaved in that particular situation. I was doing some reading, and I read about how the yoke of a ox is put on a baby's ox, a baby ox. I don't even know if there's another name for it. I know how there's a calf for a cow, but a baby ox, I think baby oxen, when it's small, they put the yoke on its neck, and that prevents it from being able to be moved. And with that, the baby oxen grows into an adult ox, and still has a yoke. And because of its mind, being as though, even though it's a 2,000-pound beast, it assumes in its mind that just like as a baby, that this yoke can control me, it still can control me as a grown 2,000-pound ox. It's a mental thing. Just like the elephants, when you see them in a circus, all they're putting is a little rope on their ankle. That big behind elephant could literally just drag the rope, but just because it puts the rope on its ankle, and because the elephant is one of the smartest, if not the smartest animals there is, it remembers that rope tugging its ankle when it was attached to a tree and it could not move, and it piercing their skin to where it was painful. So in order to not feel that pain, which is what we're talking about today, it won't move. So it is enslaved to a rope that has absolutely no power.
That was very powerful, sir. Thinking about our concept, in order to not feel the pain, it won't move. In order to not feel the pain, sometimes we won't let go of the habit.
You better teach.
Right?
Yeah.
We decided that that's our truth.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You better pray. Boy, you better go.
You asked the question. See, I can't help but respond to the question, but that's why I chose escaping versus enslavement. They're two totally different contrasts, which interestingly enough, the next thing that I use as an example is escaping truth or pain or disappointment, to be enslaved by misery, alcohol, food, porn, or sex. So escaping truth or pain or disappointment to be enslaved by misery, alcohol, food, porn, or sex. So now we're getting deeper than.
I think that what's interesting about this is the masquerade component, right?
Yeah. And that's the whole thing. See, my wife, I remember it like it was yesterday. I remember I had asked her a question. This is when we were first married. Insecurities all over me. And I asked her, did she think I was smart? And without thinking, she was like, no. I was like, dang. Goodness gracious. But she was not. She said no.
She had another comeback for that, right?
She said no, but clearly you have low self-esteem. You just made it worse for yourself. But it seemed like it took forever for her to get to the follow-up. But her response was, no, I consider you intelligent. And at that time, I was like, I didn't know that there was a difference. And she said, well, there is a difference. And she said, I think of a smart person as someone that can just read a book or go to a class and study to pass a test in that particular class. But a intelligent person takes the information that they learn in that particular course or class and they apply it to their entire life, and they take it outside of the classroom. They see how there's a connection between what they've learned and they attach it to everything. And I was like, wow, that actually is me. And I thought of that because now I need the whole point of this. So when you get to the point where you talk about no love, it's not just in the context of this relationship or companionship. It is the entire ship, whether it be a relationship at work or in school or with your daughter, with your son. It is knowing love, the epitome of the core and the essence of what love is. And now what we're doing now by me bringing up alcohol, food, porn, sex, I'm helping you see that you might think that you are escaping the relationship by going to these things, but it's actually causing you to be enslaved to these particular things on top of ruining the relationship that you're trying to escape from, or the actual pain that could be coming from the truth that comes from the actual engagement in the relationship. So there's so many people that, as you stated earlier, they think, oh, all right, so I'm going to go to the bar. I don't have to deal with this. I'm going to go to the bar. You go to the bar and you get high or take any kind of drug or what have you. Once the high is gone, once the release is gone, when we talk about sex, once you get drunk or whatever, you want to get lit or whatever, once that high is gone, the pain or the situation still is there. And you're trying to escape having that conversation, but what you're actually doing is you're becoming a slave or basically getting addicted to these other things that are temporary fixes, but they're contributing to a permanent situation that you're not really escaping from. So it's imperative that you really, really address those issues. I'd rather have temporary discomfort to relieve myself of a permanent issue or situation than avoid the conversation knowing that I'm going to have to keep going back to it. Once my high is over, once the release is finished, once the actual buzz goes away for those who drink wine or drink beer or what have you, or take shots or whatever it is that you're doing to escape the reality of your situation, it's just causing enslavement. Not to mention it's causing you have to pay for a lot of money, whether it be a DUI, the cost of the liquor or the drug, to continue to maintain the habit that you're adding to your life. And it's causing a spiral or domino effect here. But go ahead. I see you really in deep in thought. So go ahead and share, Michelle.
I was thinking about how escapism is actually a seduction, and it's gradual. So it even is the one as you were gradually building up to the escaping of truth, that was a buildup, right? So the being needing to escape is a simple thing. It's reasonable to want to go play after working hard for 7 days. You want to go sit down and do something different. That's escaping too. But escaping the hard things, not choosing not to deal and choosing to play, to distract, to engage in things that keep you numb to the pain or the situation that you're in is a seduction. Yeah. And it's a seduction that pulls you down gradually. Like you said, the chains of a habit are too light to be felt until they're too heavy to be moved. So is escapism. Escapism just takes you, and it's real slow. And I caution, again, after kind of going through the process of seeing the walls that I have built up, going through the process of dismantling them, I am very super hypersensitive to the triggers that make me want to go down that road again. So yes, I do play, and yes, I do momentarily escape and do fun things or distracting things, but I recognize that if it is becoming a numbing factor to insulate or isolate me from something I really need to deal with, I can feel that a lot more now. It's almost like having gone to rehab. You are going to Alcoholics Anonymous, and you know what your triggers are now, and you know when you need to call a lifeline. And now I know when I'm getting triggered to start going into my escapist tendencies, I tend to reach out. I talk to deal with it, even if I can't deal with it face on, deal with it adjacent, right? Until I can get to dealing with it. But you got to deal. And what I was hearing is that gradual addiction to escaping is very seductive. It feels good. It sounds good. It just kind of pulls you in.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, even avoiding pain feels good. You understand what I'm saying?
It does. Yeah, it does. Eating food is because chocolate feels good when you depressed.
Exactly. And the crazy thing about it, then you get upset about your weight, and then you eat some more. Like it always contributes and adds to the actual situation instead of dealing with the situation. And the longer you wait to deal with that truth or that pain, the harder it is to deal with it. Again, it's that weighted chain that you're creating for yourself to where you can't even move. You're paralyzed. And remember, I'm building up to this because remember we initially said escaping uncomfortable conversations is to be enslaved by your negative imagination. So this is why a book is typically way better than a movie because of our imagination. We have created this depiction of this phenomenal experience, and then the director shows you something in contrast. You're like, that's not what I saw. But we do that.
That's not what I saw.
Exactly. we do that in a negative light as well.
50 Shades of Grey.
And it's like, my goodness, I typically, like, if you respond to conflict immediately, you'll find that it's not as bad as you thought it was going to be, or the response is nowhere near what you thought it was going to be. But it has to be resolved. And I say this, it sounds bad, but it's my truth, and it's the reality of what it is. You're going to bed uncomfortable before I go to bed uncomfortable. I say that all the time. Like there's no way.
That is your truth.
There's no way I'm going to be frustrated or upset because I'd rather you feel more comfortable than I did. I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it. And the reality of that is it also aligns with what I teach and what's true to me, because if I don't love myself enough to speak up for my situation, there's no way possible that I can love you effectively either. Because how you love someone else is going to be a direct correlation between how you love yourself. So you have to first love yourself in order for you to adequately love someone else. So let's go to those things like escaping truth, pain, or disappointment to be enslaved by those things, like you said, chocolate, food, sex, porn, those things are temporary fixes. And once they're done or over, you still have the issue. And it's just going to fester and grow. And so is the addiction or the habit or whatever it is that you're trying to run from it for. It's a difference between taking a break or relaxing and escaping from something that you need to take care of. I understand you use the word escaping, but escape is to run from something that is keeping you bound. And I don't think taking a break or a vacation is considered escape. It's just regrouping, refreshing yourself, or re-energizing yourself, not running away from your life's problems. You thinking? Go ahead.
Escaping has to do with the intention. I think escaping has to do with the intention. Like you said, a vacation could be an escape or it could be a break. It depends on what your intention is. Yeah. The other thing that I was tapping my lip over was, you know, what's really interesting? People who have mastered escapism can appear to be immature. It's kind of like those who if a person never grew up and they're just constantly playing, or somebody you're dating who just won't commit because they just constantly playing, or they're escaping because they're not committing or not dealing by staying in this playing space. They're not dealing, and that can come across as immature. So I'm wondering how immaturity plays into this notion of escaping to get to enslavement. How would you say immaturity factors into this conversation?
I think it plays a huge factor in it. For one, all right, so let's analyze what we're really escaping here. So we're escaping conflict resolution skills. We're
not practicing those at all.
Yeah, or we're escaping the mirror. And what I mean by that is, remember how we had this conversation about sex and how it's the mind. And after people realize what your mind is, sex begins to become trash. So instead of you evolving or growing, you decide to get multiple partners because now you have multiple persons that have to relearn you, which makes the sex good. And then they learn you, then the sex is bad. And then you have to find someone else that doesn't really know the depth of you so that they can be interested in you for that short period of time where you are considered this new person, which makes everything great. That's why they call it the honeymoon stage when it comes to marriage, because people typically don't really know themselves in the beginning. Then once they get to the place where they're not growing and they know everything, is like, you're
boring.
You're boring. And so this and that equates to sex and things of that nature. Let me see what Brittany states. Hold on. Dealing with things builds character, fortitude, and encourages growth from lessons learned. Escapism doesn't allow for growth. You're exactly right, Ms. Brittany. Thank you so much for sharing. That's where I was headed. So with you escaping, there lies your lesson or your growth or your ability to evolve. Remember, the last part of the triangle is self-evolution. So you miss out on opportunities to learn how to respond or to diffuse situations that are growing to be worse than they have to be. So those things that's definitely an immaturity thing. Like, I don't want to deal with that. I'm running from that. I'm scared of that. Whereas an adult, and we talking about people that claim they want to be entrepreneurs or claim they want to have a family or whatever, and you can't resolve conflict. There's no way that you can have two persons in a relationship and not have conflict. So if you don't learn that, you've already failed at relationships, because you never get to a place where you are happy because you can't even speak to what makes you happy because you're so concerned that it will cause a problem. That's why there's a lot of people that you say, I'm not going to say anything, I'm trying to keep the peace, but they're walking around with a war within. So if there's a war within, there is no peace to be had. And there's no opportunity for that person to correct the situation or even know that there needs to be something corrected, which no statement is louder than a statement in itself, because by you not saying anything, it implies that you are fine with the actual situation. So
you have co-signed by virtue of not signing.
There you go. So basically, it is definitely a maturity thing, and so it's imperative to gain those skills by addressing the different conflicts, so that you can grow and mature into a better communicator and ultimately a better person. Great question.
Thank you. I
Want to
think
go
an
to the next
enslaved.
one?
I mean, I'm a ride. You go on. Let's go.
You sure?
I'm good.
I mean, they're clearly they're intersecting anyway, so it's gonna end up being associated with what you probably have to say. So let's go to the next one. Escaping blame or taking responsibility for your actions to be enslaved by unresolved issues. Escaping blame or taking responsibility for your actions to be enslaved by unresolved issues. This definitely needs to be discussed, because we have people that just don't want to say that they were wrong. They just don't want to say that, you know what, you're right. They'll do anything to just avoid. Let me see what T Mac just stated. One moment, please. It says it takes great strength to face the things that bind your head on, that bind you head on. Many lack the strength and don't recognize the strength they have. Facing the ugly parts of you takes maturity, strength, and the ability to be vulnerable to the process. Many avoid having to do the work. And thank you so much for sharing, T-Mac, first and foremost. And we did a show where we discussed how vulnerability is really a strength. And you are so right in your statement, and it's so true. I really appreciate everybody's feedback and take on what's being stated. And it's this is why this stuff is passionate to me, because people are missing out on empowerment because they think they're avoiding pain, when in actuality they could really be growing strong in who they are and who they ultimately were created to become. But avoiding the process, like people, I don't want to wear braces for 3 years, but I hate my teeth. Like 3 years is gonna pass regardless. So you can either get the braces and hate it for 3 years and be happy after 3 years, or you can just keep on disregarding the braces for 3 years and still have jacked up smile or whatever in your opinion. You have people that are like, oh man, I want to go natural, but I hate the process. Like you're still not going to go natural if you don't start. Like you can put a wig on or something to cover up the process, but the process is the process. And if you want the ultimate results, you got to go through the uncomfortable part, which is the reason for the No Love app. Shameless plug, but it's the reality of what it is. It is for you to go through the process via the actual simulator or the game, so that you can do it in the game / simulator, so that you don't have to go through the process in real life. I can assure you, going through,
and you don't have as many scars
in the simulation, it still hurts. It still makes you feel uncomfortable. When you read those cards that make you feel uncomfortable, that is what your issue is. That's the whole reason for the simulation. You don't know what you don't know. So I force you to have experiences that you didn't know you possibly could have. And then it's in your face. Just like you said, T-Mac, it's in your face. Hits you head on. And you're like, wow, I didn't even realize I had that problem, or I didn't even think that would have been a problem, which in turn allows for you to really investigate what's causing me to feel uncomfortable about this card. And then look at the counseling that comes with the card to assist in you growing from that. So thank you again for sharing. And as far as the No Love app, for those who are just getting there, it is available for free on Android. We haven't made it to iOS yet, but we're working on it. So that is available for you to freely download at the Google Play Store. But thank you again, T-Mac, for sharing. Go ahead, Michelle.
I was piggybacking on the recognizing of the strength, and the notion that you were saying, like, you have to do the work. It is a process. And the uncomfortableness of it all. One of the tools that has become really valuable to me is playing out the worst case scenario. prior to having to deal with whatever's uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
part of escapism is avoidance. But
Yeah.
the way our mind is wired, we really can't tell the difference between what we're imagining and what we're really experiencing. So sometimes it's worth the exercise to play out the worst case scenario, the rejection, the discomfort of the conversation, the what would happen if. Just play it all the way out. It neutralizes some of the fear, and then you're able to re-engage with a little bit more of a clear head. It doesn't mean that you'll satisfy, all of it, but it helps do the work. By doing the work. And that's what the game is really doing, is allowing you to play out some of these scenarios, practice your responses, so that when you get into those experiences in real life, it's not the first time your mind has heard this.
That's good.
It's a learned response. Like, you get to train yourself in the game how you want to respond in real life. For example, somebody cheats on you, you can play it out in the game. You're like, I'm going to kick him to the curb, but then you realize 2 cards away, it's not worth it to kick him to the curb, maybe because they might be growing through it. So you get this in real life. It's not like, I have never thought of this before. I am completely blindsided and I don't know what to do. It's preparation.
Most certainly. Most certainly. That's great. Great example. And that's exactly what it is, so that you can see it to where it doesn't sideblind you or blindside you, however you want to say it, when it happens in real life, and you'll be equipped. Not to mention, you'll get to the root of where that's coming from. Like, we've been having this conversation. Loneliness basically means you don't love yourself. Like, you hate being alone. I have a lot of people that are in relationships and they will not separate from that person because they say they don't want to be alone, which means you don't want to be with you. So if you don't like you, how are you upset about the person that's not treating you right? They don't like you just as much as you don't like you. So when you get to the place where you like,
don't be mad at them if they like themselves more than they like you, because you don't like you either.
Exactly.
Like, okay.
So basically, you're upset with them because they feel about you the way you feel about you. So we need to work on yourself so that will bleed over and just ooze out in the way that you interact with other people, which in turn will actually cause them to respond to like you. But back to this initial escaping blame or taking responsibility for your actions to be enslaved by unresolved issues. There's so many people that I don't know why it's so difficult for them to say, I'm wrong, or I'm sorry, or just take ownership for their actions or even lack thereof. So where that is preventing you from actually having a moment, or even making the other person feel comfortable enough to do it to you when they fall short or have a mistake. And it leaves you in a predicament where, for one, a person doesn't even want to have a conversation with you anymore. They don't even want to try to resolve any issues because they know you're full of crap.
You always right. So why are we having this conversation?
Exactly. Like, right. So I already know. So right. You've ruined opportunities for you all to have resolved issues because and that's where that whole, I'm not going to say anything because I want to keep the peace. It's because you were so irate and you couldn't even take ownership of how you contributed to the problem to where nothing got resolved. So now that person doesn't even want to talk to you. So you kind of contributed to the actual person not speaking or feeling that, oh, you know what, I'm not even going there with him tonight, or I'm not even going to have this discussion with her because I know how she is. Like, that's like, you really need to humble yourself, take ownership for your actions so that you two can collectively grow and evolve, especially when it comes to difficult situations. Because what happens is when you cannot, and this is where it's coming from, when you get to the place where you have a problem with being wrong, you will do everything in your power to try to hide stuff that you've done. And it also will prevent you from even being able to share the truth because you're so fearful of being wrong. Like, when you get so caught up in not being wrong or trying to always be right, you miss out on opportunities to learn and grow because you won't even share what you've done, and it's harder for you to be forgiven because you won't even share that you've done anything wrong that you can grow from. But go ahead, Michelle. I see you got your hand on your chin. That's your thinking face.
I know, that's my thinking face. I wanted you to explore a little more the impact on a relationship of unresolved issues?
Oh man. We just talked about we talked about we indirectly talked about this because unresolved issues. All right, let's go to the hard stuff. Unresolved issues will cause a person to cheat. Unresolved issues will cause a person to resent you. Unresolved issues will strip you of intimacy. You will not get to learn anything more about your mate because of unresolved issues. You miss out on connection. You miss out on great sex. You miss out on laughter. We definitely need to do a show on laughter and how important it is. You miss out on just having a peaceful environment because of unresolved issues. And the crazy thing about it is the message that it sends is that you really don't care about that person. When you can just push it to under the rug or disregard it or what have you, that person just they start to resent you. And when a person starts to resent you and they become numb towards you and they have no feelings towards you, it really, really will destroy a relationship. I don't know how in depth you want me to go, but I would need you to ask me more in-depth questions for me to go any further than that. But there's so much.
No, I think I just wanted, was.
Go ahead.
You tapped on it, but unresolved issues really are saying that the relationship isn't worth the effort of doing the uncomfortable, right? I think it's escaping in and of itself. You're becoming enslaved by the actual habit of escaping.
What's even more important that is saying, and it's unfortunate, is what's important to you means nothing to me. And no one wants to feel that way. What's important to you means absolutely nothing to me. And when you are in a relationship with someone that is supposed to be someone that you are in love with and someone that you really, really care about, which in turn should make them a priority, for you to absolutely disregard how they feel about something, no matter how unimportant it is to you, just devalues them as a person. And it also causes them to start questioning their value. And it's just, the spiral effect is just, it's bad. It's really, really bad. Yes, ma'am. Did I answer, or do I need to go further, or what? Got it. All right, perfect. So let's go to the next one. Escaping being hurt, i.e. being rejected, to be enslaved by numbness and never feeling loved.
Woo, that's a hard one to wake up from. Been there. That waking up from being numb is not it. It's almost as bad. It's like when your arm goes to sleep and it's painful.
Feeling, oh my gosh, yeah, most certainly. So yeah, escape.
It's not cool.
Yeah, escaping being hurt or rejected to be enslaved by numbness and never feeling love. There's so many people that have this defense mechanism. You know what? They're all the same.
Mm-hmm. I don't need nobody. I don't need nothing. I'm good. Exactly. I got this. I got it. Don't need nobody.
And what you protecting yourself from the rejection or from them hurting you, all is doing, when you build a wall, there's no discrimination as to what it keeps out. So you block love and you block hate. And again, you have to go through the process to get the result that you want. And I'm sorry, but the process is getting hurt sometimes. The process is realizing that you put in time with the wrong one. But the process is necessary because the only way that you can realize that you found love is when you realize that you found hate or hurt or harm. You can't tell what the contrast is until you feel what the opposing feeling is. You can't appreciate.
Contrast brings clarity.
Exactly. You can't appreciate the greatness of the right person until you find the terribleness of the wrong person. So like it's a necessary evil in order for you to get to the place where you're so appreciative that you're not going to mess up this particular situation that you ended up being in, because you have finally found or come across the right one. So the process is so necessary, because the only way that you can appreciate light is when you've been through darkness. That's the only way. So you have to go through that wilderness or that darkness or those bad dates or those bad relationships, so that when you finally find the right one, crazy thing about it is it actually molds you into who you need to be for when you find the right one.
It builds muscle.
Exactly.
Pain builds muscle.
Just like
emotional muscle.
Yeah, that's what T-Mac was talking about. So that is it's you have to go through the process. You cannot avoid the process. And when you get to the place where you're doing the dating thing and you're realizing that, you know what, I didn't lose from that relationship. I actually gained this information or this knowledge, and I'm taking it to the next particular relationship, and I won't use it. I won't do that again. So you start learning. I mean, I deal, especially in business, I lose money, and I'm like, that was a $6,000 lesson. I won't do that anymore. But that $6,000 lesson, it helped me make $20,000 later because of what I learned from that $6,000 lesson. So it is so necessary to go through the process to equip you for what it is that you were really trying to or ultimately looking for in the end. Go ahead, Michelle.
I was piggybacking off of your statement of learning, and I think I was remembering that you say you never lose, you always at least break even, which right? But if you take advantage of just the thought-provoking conversation that we're having, right, and you realize that all of these contrasting or painful situations are opportunities to learn, then you really ultimately don't come into relationships with baggage. You come into relationships with wisdom. And that is the most powerful position to be in, because then you can avoid some of these escapism things that we talked about. Yeah. Because every fail has been a fail forward. Every mistake has been an opportunity. And you're not weighed down like the bag lady. You now are wise, maybe even beyond your years. That's the game. Shameless plug. Go into your relationships with wisdom instead of painful experience. Yeah, most certainly. And so I put it to you like this. If I told whomever, the person that's looking for a man or wishing they had a woman or whatever, or what have you, all right, so your man or the right one is going to be the 5th person that you date. Or the right woman is going to be the 7th person that you date. You're going to rush through those people. The problem is there's no number given. But there's somebody there that will align with them. So, like, fail fast. Mm-hmm. But we keep on delaying the process, and time is something you cannot get back. So if you're not even starting, you're not even dating, you're not even making yourself accessible, you're never going to get that person. But you're going to be sitting there complaining and frustrated about ain't nobody good out here. You're not even out here to talk about you're not even out there to be. You didn't even tiptoe to the tulips. And you can't assume they're all bad. Myron put, he said, I have a speech I do where I talk about turning rejection into injection. I like it. That's really good. Yeah, I mean, you have to fail fast. It's imperative. Like, failure, first of all, you can't learn from success. Let's start with that. You cannot learn from success at all. There's no lessons
in success. You don't even necessarily know that what you're doing is what makes you successful. A lot of times when businesses, when it comes to the economy or whatever, they start cutting positions and jobs and sustaining the business, which meant that when they were successful, they had pointless positions and jobs that they were just frivolously paying money out for that was not needed. It wasn't until the whole failure or bills needing to be cut or whatever in order for them to stay in profit to see how you really could be running the business successfully. So success does not teach you anything. Struggle, failure, the economy shifting, that is what makes you really think and you go about your business differently. So you have to go through these different relationships so that you know how to maneuver and get through them and go about them differently or correctly, so that you're going into it lean, so to speak, instead of just frivolously with all this, as you stated, baggage that is not necessary in order for you to sustain a successful and happy relationship. That's great.
I think that I heard a good word this week. What words don't teach, experiences do. So even though we're having this conversation, it's when you're in the midst of the experience and the words come back and you change your perspective, that's the learning moment. But the words are just resources, but experience is the best teacher.
Most certainly. Exactly. You can't learn how to swim reading a book. You can't learn how to fly reading a book. You gotta go and do it and fail a couple of times. That's why they have you flying in the simulator. That's why the No Love app is a simulator.
We want you to fail in relationships.
Exactly.
A couple hundred times.
Exactly. Most certainly. So go ahead and fail in the simulation so that you can succeed in real life. The next one, we're almost at the end. Escape the truth to be enslaved by denial. Escape the truth to be enslaved.
Don't make me go there. That is my friend. Denial is my friend.
Escape the truth to be enslaved by denial.
Denial. I love it.
We so want what's best for the people, because as you stated, scared of loneliness, don't want to be alone. So we disregard their actions, even though they're screaming, "Hey, I'm abusive. I am not responsible.
I am not the one." I'm not the one. Wear the t-shirt. I am not the one.
They got a big neon sign. Avoid me. Don't do it. And we are like, no, I want to tell people I'm married.
I can change him.
I have to tell people that I'm married. I'm almost 40 years old. I'm almost 50. I have to tell my mom I have a husband. My mom likes him. My mom likes her. I have to raise my children with both parents.
Anytime you put a have to in front of anything,
I have to. Like, we're in denial. The children are seeing that person yell at you and abuse you. They're concluding that the way that you two engage with one another is natural and normal and what love looks like, which means all you're doing is planting in them a seed that is going to harvest into their relationship in the future. Like, you cannot be in denial or because you've read a statistic or what have you, or you want to, again, rid yourself of this, or actually escape to a quick pleasure, so that you are enslaved by just discomfort or just a poor relationship or just lack of peace or just so many things, like just so that you can check something off on an actual list, as opposed to just being patient until you get what it is that you are created to have or you are built to have. I see you thinking. Go ahead, Michelle.
My mind is racing because I love denial. Me and denial had a long-term relationship. So I'm intimately aware of how denial is. But denial and I'll just say for me, I'm testifying, it was a form of self-soothing and a way to maintain control that didn't require anybody else. So it was a lever I could push, that I could push, that helped me to cope. And it worked in the short term, but it didn't work in the long term because, going back to the things that we said earlier, I wasn't gaining wisdom. I wasn't having experiences. I wasn't dealing and engaging. So I'm again, testimony, stunted in areas of my life that I use denial as the lever. So I may be really smart in some areas of my life, but there are areas in relationships, because I've never experienced them, because I lived in denial and didn't want to get hurt. There are certain areas of conversation or intimacy I've never experienced because I didn't allow myself to, but that makes me very stunted in that area. Yeah. And so I think denial is a sophisticated form of escapism that we can selectively apply and appear to be like 100% in control, but it is in control. You're controlling your numbness by using denial, and it's like a tranquilizer. But having gotten free from it, and you know I love you, that it's a process to get free from.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's definitely a process. I have people that they come to me, they already have the engagement and everything, and they're telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, why do you think this is going to change when you say I do? What makes you think when you get married, he's now going to do the right thing with the money? Or she's now going to do the right thing?
The same person he was on Tuesday as he is on the next day.
What makes you think that now that you get married, that now he's going to start spending time with the children? What makes you think that now she's going to stop going clubbing or what have you once you all get married? What makes you think that he or she is going to stop hitting you once you all say I do?
Paper. They think it's the paper. The paper's going to make a difference.
That all it does is amplify what it is that you're signing up for. It amplifies it. It does not make it change. And you thinking that this transitioning from dating to relationship or relationship to marriage is going to change it, that is denial. I'm going to need you to see what's actually happening. Accept it. Do not go through this marriage or what have you because a whole bunch of people have RSVP'd and you've already purchased the dress. Like, you could really be go ahead. She's
been there.
He's done it. Michelle has done it. It's not worth it. And it's going to cost you more in the long run. So
high price.
Yeah, it's a very high price to pay. You're talking about your sanity. You're talking about your peace. And I'm not making it. Am I making this up? Peace? Am I right or wrong? Were we considering suicide, Michelle, at one point in time? It's
the price is the internal, and that goes back to unresolved issues, the numbness, the denial, the loneliness, all of this enslavement, this state of being. Enslavement can become a state of being that requires a lifeline. And I say that because my experience, which I'm so grateful that God hears prayer. God puts people around you that at some point you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. But some enslavement, just like you referred to Harriet Tubman, sometimes requires somebody to come in and get you out.
Yeah. And T-Mac, I love it. You said denial is classic avoidance and objection of a necessary process. So many people live in denial and don't know it. The acronym for denial is don't even know I am lying. Just got to put the K before the N though, as opposed
100%.
to, yeah, but
100%.
Denial is don't even know I am lying. And it starts as a lie. and then it becomes your truth, but it
It
remains a
becomes
lie.
your truth.
But it remains a lie, and
It's a coping mechanism. And I go back to it's a coping mechanism. It's a lie that is protecting you from something that's perceived hurt. I'm not saying that it's real hurt, but that is your attempt. And for me, I'll go. But it's an attempt to protect yourself, or to control a certain situation by working through whatever. It's a coping mechanism. Is it work? Not for a long time.
Not at all. It
makes it look stupid.
No different from the food, the drugs, the alcohol, and all of that stuff. It doesn't remove or resolve the situation at all.
All of these things that you talked about tonight have lasting residue.
Mm-hmm.
All of the enslavement issues leave a residue.
That's true. And it also it teaches behaviors to those who are experiencing it, like your children, or your family.
You may get out of it, but it leaves something.
It definitely
you may get out of it, but it leaves evidence that it occurred.
That's right. So close the door, sir. No, close the door, son. So temptation escapes, like you have blame. Like we discussed food, but blame is one of the biggest, and I wanted to like kind of end there because oftentimes I always try to get people to really see themselves first and work their way out. Because and that's what the no love simulation also is as well. It's not a coincidence that's the whole process of the no love journey is. But the simulation, when you engage in the simulation through the No Love app, again, for those who have an Android on the Google Play Store, it's available for free. You'll notice that you might have a similar situation whereby it's correcting you for doing something. And then on the other hand, it's the other person doing it to you, and it's showing you how you can correct it, even though it's the other person did it to you. And it almost feels like it's a contradiction because, like, hold on, I did that and you disciplined me, so to speak. And when they did it to me, now you're still disciplining me again. And the whole point of it is so that you can get accustomed to seeing yourself in the situation and working your way out. Because I can assure you that 80%, and I'm confident in that number, of a relationship's issues are the things that you don't resolve yourself. If you take care of what you contribute to the relationship that can cause problems, it will take care of majority of the other stuff that the other person is doing or not doing. And the reason for that is because people typically are waiting for the other person to do something for them to do something. We typically say, if she get her act together, then I'll start doing that. Or if he does this, then I'll start cooking. Or if she did this, I will start coming home on time. So we're waiting for the other person to do something, whereby if we do what we need to do, it will actually inspire them to do what we would prefer for them to do. So blaming is probably the worst thing that you can do when it comes to any of these things. And that in itself is an escape from taking responsibility and being mature enough to own where it is that you could repair something that you're contributing to a problem, which in turn will enslave you to just a bad environment or a situation. So when it comes to a situation, what I do, and I even teach, is to look at yourself first. How can I be contributing to this? What is it that I could have done for this to go awry? And then from there, if you can work your way from you all the way to the person, then you address or confront the person. Now, if you're analyzing yourself and you find where you contributed to the problem, for one, you need to start working on that or fix that. And two, by the time you get to that person, you need to share how you could have contributed to the problem, which in turn lets them become less defensive when you approach them, because you started with, this is where I went wrong. And I can see how I could have contributed to this. But this is how you have frustrated me, which in turn caused me to respond this way or whatever. But start with you first and work your way out. And then when you get to the point where you can work your way out and you don't see anything else, then you have a high probability that you have the right to confront them. But that also goes into the fact, or goes into you asking them or saying, this is how I received what you did. Is this the way that you meant for me to receive it? Now when they respond and they say, yeah, that's exactly how I wanted you to receive it. Now you've worked from you to them, and you found out that they just straight up trifling. Now you got every right to throw everything but the kitchen sink, so to speak. Not physically, or it's figuratively, not real. But I'm just saying, like, you can go in and respond as stern as you feel you need to be. But go ahead, Michelle.
I was just reflecting actually while you were talking, and I remember one episode somebody had asked how, and I keep bringing up myself as an example, but how did I get through it? And as you were talking, I was like, again, it's self-healing or self-reflecting. When you sit quietly and you say I am, that first thing that comes up is your truth. And if you can't get to your truth, you can't figure out what to do the work on. We talked about a lot of things today, so all of them aren't your problems. One of them may be, but if you can't learn how to sit quietly and get to the root of who and what you are, you can't ever really get to doing the work. And it's scary the first couple times that you get in there and you, like I was telling somebody when I was doing a talk recently, I've done a lot of work, and I was the Dudley Duckling turned into a swan type scenario. But my I am that I still come up with is I'm fat. And that's not necessarily true, but it's still the I am that hasn't yet worked itself out. I can say that doing the work and listening and addressing each issue as it comes up is very much like purging. The issue that is most important to you is painful and it comes up, but it comes up and out. And you know that you've gotten through it when you can say positive things where you used to say negative things. Yeah, like when you used to, I don't like this and I can't this, or and then all of a sudden it's, I can do this and I am this. And you know that it's worked itself out when you can change the way you're speaking. That's your own personal indicator that you have successfully navigated through whatever that issue.
And purging is such a necessary term to use, because purging is painful, but it's intended to help you grow more fruit. So it's a painful process that's necessary in order for you to grow in a bigger harvest, so to speak. So that's a perfect analogy or phrase to use, because it's necessary. And if you cannot get honest with yourself, you'll never be able to resolve your issues. Never. That's why when you go to any 12-step program or anything of that nature, the first part or first step is to admit that you have a problem. Because if you can't start there, you cannot finish the steps. That is the foundation to see yourself, see that you have a problem. And the minute that you realize that you have a problem,
it's the beginning of your healing. Acknowledgement is the beginning of healing.
Most certainly, not to mention problems are problems in order for them to be solved. The only time you can come up with a solution is to have a problem. So you have to first have a problem in order for you to come to a solution. And if you're walking around thinking that everyone else is the problem and you have a solution for them, I can assure you, you are the problem. So as we conclude, do you have any final words, Michelle?
That the purging process is worth it. And I say to people every day, when I'm at work, problems are my job security. So for me to get upset that I got a problem to deal with is nobody's best interest. Life has problems. So dealing with them is a certainty that you are alive. So just be encouraged that it's just a process and you can embrace and deal with, not escape from whatever you have going on in your world.
Great. My final words are embrace the process. The process is necessary for growth. Growing is uncomfortable. Teething. when you're a baby, it's just uncomfortable. Um, if you can still fit your baby clothes, there's a problem. You have to grow, you have to evolve, and that process, you can never fix a problem with the same mind that you created the problem with, and that just takes work. It's necessary work in order for you to resolve your problems, because you have to have a different mindset in order for you to get to the opposing end of the or the opposite side of the problem. So the most important word tonight would be probably is through. You have to go through. And again, the operative word is through. A lot of people are like, man, I'm going through some tough times right now. I'm like, great, keep going. And like, what? I said, keep going, because if you stay there, now you're in the problem. But if you go through, that means you're ultimately going to get to the other side. So don't stay there. And staying there, what does staying there look like? The food, drinking, the sex, not actually attacking or addressing the issue, confronting it, saying this is what it is. This is a result of my loneliness. This is the result of my self-hatred. This is the result of me not being humble enough to say that I am wrong. This is a result of rejection.
Unaccomplished goals and unfulfillment. That's the result of staying there.
Most certainly. And you know, I went to the mountains, West Virginia, and we were climbing the mountains, and the guy kept on stopping. I'm like, yo, stopping is not going to get us there. You might be in pain. I'm like, when we get to this view that we're headed to, I know it's a 3-mile hike up this steep mountain, but I'm like, once we get to that hike, the top, like all the pain is going to be gone and it's going to be worth it. But standing right here, right now is not getting us any closer. I said, stop, shift what you're thinking in your mind, because it's what you're saying to yourself that's preventing you from making it up this hill. Change your talk and it'll change your walk. Again, the No Love app is available. We're working on some actual logos for new merchandise. If you have any questions, please hit me up at No Love Inc. KNOWLOVEINC @gmail.com. You can visit us at the YouTube channel, which is the No Love Podcast. Please share any kind of comments that you have about the No Love app at the Google Play Store. Share with friends and family. We will continue to share and pour into you all as long as you all are receptive. I can assure you that I'm continuously learning and digging and making myself uncomfortable just so that I can make sure that you all are going through this thing and navigating through this thing called love in a manner that you experience it on purpose and not by chance. I can't stress you all enough how much I appreciate your minds and time. Until we meet again, y'all be safe, take care, and have a great rest of your week.
Bye, y'all.